Welcome to a spooky records management moment with your New York Association of Local Government Records Officers. Hey there, this is Megan Sokolow, one of your NYALGRO board members. In honor of spooky season, this month we'll be talking about some of the scariest things that can happen in records management. Get ready. Find someone to hold on to, and let's get into it. And listen, I'm not talking about what I look like at 3 o'clock on Monday afternoon after everything went crazy. You know that's crazy, of course. But there are some real things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis that can scare the crap out of us. Number one, water. Totally terrifying. You know what I mean, right? Every one of us knows at least one person who has had a major water disaster in their records facility. So let's get into it. But we know there's some real things that we can do. I mean, yes, water is really scary no matter what kind of office environment you're in. But in a records center or clerk's office or any kind of place where you're storing vital records, it's really scarier than ever. And we know that floods happen and pipes burst and all kinds of things. So we can reduce the terror in certain specific ways. And let's get into those because we don't need to be afraid this season. So, our number one tip, which we hear all of the time from New York State Archives and anyone else who's working in archive space, is to get everything up elevated off the floor. And if possible, not store things in places where they have an increased risk of getting damaged by water. So, like, not under a water pipe or not in a basement that's under the water table. That kind of thing is really important. But there's another option or way to deal with these kinds of situations as well, and it's to install a hygrometer. Now, that's a tiny little device that tells you the temperature and the relative humidity. And oftentimes you can get them for like really cheap, like 20, $30 on Amazon or other websites. And when you use this device, you can connect it to your cell phone. It will alert you from a distance whether the relative humidity is climbing too fast or if it's gone above a certain level. So you can be aware of the situation in your archive space before things get out of hand. Of course, we know that sometimes there's really nothing you can do. Floods happen, and you really can't predict when they're going to occur. So, here's some rules of thumb to remember if a disaster does happen in your archives facility. The first thing, and it's the most important thing, is do not enter the facility to secure any records whatsoever until the space has been checked and declared safe by emergency response personnel. Water is highly conductive electricity, and it can be toxic if things get spilled into it. So just don't go in there until it's declared safe. Now, if your paper records are wet, the goal is to get them dry as soon as possible. If the volume of records is small enough, you can even hang them to dry on a clothesline or lay delicate records flat to air dry. However, electronic records, things stored on hard drives or thumb drives or CDs, anything where it's held digitally, you're going to want to keep those wet. If possible, you're going to rinse them with distilled water, maybe get a little bit of mud or grime off, but don't try to scrub them. And then store them in a wet condition in a Ziploc bag or in a tote until it's possible to get them to some IT professionals who can restore them. Let's be real here. Like, nobody wants any pests, not in their workspace, not in their home, but they're a fact of life. So let's get into it. These scary little monsters are here, and what are we going to do about it? So bugs, mice, snakes, gross, no thanks. But we know that they're going to get into our facilities at some point, especially bugs. So what are the keys to dealing with this problem in an archives or record center? Well, the key is prevention and early detection. So the first step is to make sure that your storage spaces are really inhospitable by keeping the environment at the right temperature and humidity and making sure that you're not letting anybody, including yourself, friends, I know I try hard not to do this, to bring food or liquids into your storage spaces. Just don't do it. So, the earlier you notice that something has entered your facility, the better. So, what I like to recommend is that you put about some different little pest catching tools throughout your facility and monitor them regularly to see what it is that's actually being caught on them. I mean, it's also super important that you change them frequently because The actual things that you catch may then start to attract other things that are worse. So, making sure that you change them often and also check them often. So, once you've caught the little monsters, you need to figure out who they are exactly so that you can figure out whether or not you need to freak out and call like every single exterminator on the planet, or you can just kind of take a soak and be like, ew, gross. So, here are two resources that I really love. There's a mobile app, it does have a subscription fee where you can snap a photograph of a specific insect and it will tell you exactly which one it is. And then I like to take that information to my friends over at museumpest.net. And you can look at a huge variety of documents and information about different kinds of pests that may show up in a museum and find out whether or not they are, in fact, a 5 alarm fire kind of pest or just a nuisance. And last but not least, one of the scariest things, in my opinion, is rot. That's redundant, obsolete, and trivial stuff. Now, I know you probably haven't spent a lot of time thinking about this term. However, you definitely have been thinking about this problem because we all have it and it is a huge one for most of us. And last, so what exactly is this redundant, obsolete, and trivial thing? It's basically all of the stuff that you have that you don't need anymore, but you don't have time to get rid of it. This stuff lives on your emails, it lives in your office, it's that pile of papers that you just don't have time to go through. It's all of the things that would make your life a little bit less efficient and a little bit less easy to cope with that we all have and we just don't have time to deal with. So, we all have this problem and we're all dealing with it every day, but I think most of us don't really know where to start. So, let's get into it. One of the most common words I hear people use when they talk about dealing with this specific type of stuff is that it's overwhelming. And let me tell you, I completely agree. One of the best strategies that I've found to sort of displace some of the overwhelm is to ask for your team across your organization to support your efforts. So, one way I do this, and it's been very successful for me personally, is to send out a reminder annually and also quarterly reminding my friends and staff and colleagues at the county to go ahead and destroy the things that are routine that we know for sure will be ready to destroy at this time. For example, I'll say, okay, guys, spend 15 minutes this week getting rid of all of those emails from the staples. And here are three more useful tips to deal with this problem. First of all, everyone knows a rolling stone gathers no moss. Something comes into your office and you know for sure you don't need it and it doesn't have any value. Get rid of it today, right now. Don't let it go on your desk. Don't let it sit in your inbox. Toss it in the trash. Number two, set a timer for 5 minutes and spend those 5 minutes cleaning up your email or a cluttered network shared drive. 5 minutes is a lot of progress in a very short period of time, and usually we all at least can find that much. And the last thing is, especially if you're in charge of guiding your colleagues on how to get rid of extra stuff, is to set up a time on like a Zoom or some other web conferencing platform to walk your colleagues through deleting electronic files together. This can be great for emails, especially, but also really useful for network shared drives. There's really no better method to get rid of extraneous paper records than by doing a full inventory of those records. Inventories are amazing at getting rid of rot because they help you to identify what you have that should be gone. According to the New York State Archives, the best practice for inventories is to do them at least once a decade. And so it's a very good idea to go ahead and apply for a 2025-2026 New York State Archives LGRM IF grant for an inventory project, especially if you haven't done one in quite a while. So, do you have any record skeletons in your closets? Make sure to join us this summer for the 2025 NYALGRO conference at Villa Roma in Callicoon, New York. It's June 1st through 4th, and we will have an excellent time learning all about different strategies and methods to deal with your records. And you will have a wildly good time. This has been another snack size records management moment with NYALGRO. Thank you so much for joining us.